din na kaya nyo din maging healthy, happy, active, and strong kahit nasa bahay lang. Today will be from Palabip Fitness. Wala tayong gagawin kundi mag-running and walking intervals, indoor, in place. Yun na. So let's go!
Alright you guys, as promised, we are getting right into it. Timey Dandy Timer is getting ready to go, and we are going to start with a running interval. Now, be clear, when I say running, I mean whatever pace you can manage when we get started. It might just be jogging when we get started, but here we go. So we're going to get right to it, you guys. This is going to be a really exciting day. Now, I don't know if you have done a 5K before. I'm kind of hoping, somewhat secretly hoping, that this is your very first 5K, because this is a really big deal, and I'm super excited to share it with you. We're going to go into a walking pace. Again, taking it at whatever pace works for you. We've got a long day ahead of us today. This is the longest running workout that I have recorded to date. I do have plans on this Friday fun run as we get more into it and run every Friday together that we might go longer and longer. My intention with the Friday fun run is that it's always accessible to anybody at just about any level, that they can work up to the different longer runs, but that's still always aimed at somebody who's just getting started. Heart rate has definitely come up, and there we go with a nice walking pace. You are welcome to take this at whatever you like. I've got kind of a little march going on here. If you're feeling a little bit stiff and creaky, you might take these first couple of walking paced intervals, doing a little bit more stretching, a little bit more dynamic warm-up, if that's what you need. It's always a good idea to make sure that you've worked out all those kinks and creaks in your ankles and your knees and your hips before we really get going. Because honestly, by the time that we get to the finish line today, you're going to not want to be stiff and sore. That might come later. That's okay. Nice. Nice deep breaths. We're just catching our breath on these walking intervals. We're still moving. It's not really a rest period. That's the thing about walking and running with any kind of intervals. There's still no rest. It's just a little bit of time to catch your breath. Awesome job. And then right back to it. Whatever pace you want to go today, totally. I'm aiming to get a little bit faster as we go. You know, there's some point in every race of every distance where you end up feeling pretty good, and you go a little bit faster and a little bit faster. Now, depending on how long your race is, you might end up then slowing down after that too. You know, if you're watching this in real time on the day I post it, I have quite a big race myself tomorrow on Saturday. I'm running my very first 100K. And I will tell you that one of the reasons that I wanted to record this 5K is because in a lot of ways, there's no difference between the first time you run a 5K and the first time you run a 100K. The fact is, the first time you go a new distance, and we're walking again, awesome. The first time you go a new distance, there's always going to be, well, first of all, a bit of a learning curve. And second of all, you're probably going to take walking breaks. The fact is, on my race tomorrow, I'm going to be taking a lot of walking breaks. I have tons of walking breaks planned for me. In fact, I'm bringing my handy dandy bus because it's going to keep me on task for the whole day. And yes, it is indeed going to take me all day. I'm assuming it's going to be somewhere, oh gosh, between 12 and 16 hours. I'm hoping for not more than 16. It's a very easy course. But you know what? If it takes longer, it takes longer. That's the thing about, again, any distance. There are so many parallels between running your first 5K and running your first ultra marathon and running your first any. The fact is, you probably have goals. You probably have an idea in your mind of how you'd like things to go. And it might go that way. Here we are back to running. It might go that way, and it totally might not. You know, running has a mind of its own. You can practice, you can train, you can prepare all you want, but the fact is, on any given day, there are lots of things that can go right, and lots of things that can go wrong. And it's really just up to you to stay mentally strong, to be prepared with whatever comes at you. You know, I've never gone that distance before. I've never run that length of time before. I've never actually done any endurance sports as long as I think it's going to take me. I've done a couple of very long races, but I've never done something that I think is going to take 16 hours. It's a different world out there when you're going a new length. There are big question marks. I have no idea how I'm going to feel walking. I have no idea how I'm going to feel past about 12 hours. I have run 12 hours before. I've done a couple of 50-mile races. It took me just about 12 and a half hours. So I think I know what I'm going to feel like at 12 to 12 and a half hours, but going past that, I don't know. Maybe there will be a third, fourth, or fifth wind in there somewhere. After going that long, you know, you get a little bit delirious. And you know what? The first time I ran a 5K, I got delirious then too. There was so many nerves and so much going on in my head about, oh my gosh, 3 miles in practice, in training before, but not a lot of times. It was still very new to me when I signed up for my very first 5K, so I didn't know what it was going to feel like. I didn't know how nervous I would be. Back to running. Awesome job. I didn't know how nervous I would be. I didn't know what it would feel like to run with other people, to have a crowd. I happened to pick, excuse me, one of the largest local races. There was, I don't know, 25,000 people at my very first 5K, which is huge, by the way. That's a really, really big race. Most of the local 5Ks that I run tend to be somewhere between like 500 and 1,000, and that's even kind of big at that size. I've done races that only had a couple of hundred people, and that's sort of a nice way to go, especially if you're not used to running with other people or having a crowd around you. It's kind of nice to have a little bit of elbow room so that you can do your own thing. In fact, it's really nice to be in your own living room because you know what, worst case scenario, you can pause this video, go to the bathroom, go get a drink, go do whatever you gotta do to get through the rest of the run. We are walking again, bringing that heart rate down. I'm actually finding myself not walking quite as fast as I did on that first walking interval because I think I'm running a little bit faster on the running intervals. Whatever pace speaks to you at any given time. We're not doing the kind of workout where we're trying to hit a certain pace or trying to go, well, we are trying to go a certain distance, more or less a certain distance in our time frame today. But I'm not real concerned with you being a speed demon. It's not really about that. In fact, it's rarely about that. Sometimes on race day, after you've been running for a while, you might really like to push yourself and see how fast you can go a certain distance. And I do enjoy that too. I actually really like running fast on purpose for short amounts of time. But the first time you go a new long distance or longer than you've run before, it's really important to let go of some of the preconceived ideas you might have about speed. You can work on either speed. You really can't work on both at the same time. And the theory goes back and forth as to which one you should work on first. I tend to just go back and forth between them. I'll go a new distance, and then I'll stay at that distance for a while, training up to and near that distance. And then I'll start to get faster at it. And then once I've gotten a little bit faster at that distance, then I'll push distance again. Then I'll push speed again. Then I'll push distance again. Then I'll push speed again. The fact is, it takes your body a long time to make adaptations. It takes a long time to make adaptations to running at all. So, and here we go with walking again. So worrying too excessively about how fast you're going is kind of counterproductive. Be proud of running any distance, especially when you're first starting. Any distance is distance. That's a huge, huge breakthrough to be running any kind of distance. And then after your body has made some adaptations, and generally speaking, any kind of adaptation that takes that your body is trying to go through takes at least 6 weeks, sometimes longer. Like building muscle, losing fat, at least minimum 6 weeks before you're going to see adaptations from your body. So running is no different from that. It's still a physical adaptation. Your muscles, your tendons, your joints, your ligaments, every single inch of your body, basically, including your brain, has to get used to the idea of running. So being critical of yourself, pushing yourself too hard, too fast, too much, too soon, and here we go back to running, isn't really going to help you. What I do is be patient, and eventually your body will catch up with where your mind thinks it should be. You know, I've been running for 10 years now, almost 10 years. In September of 2016, it will be 10 years for me. And I will tell you that probably the biggest problem I have had in my running career is impatience. I am an impatient person. I want things now. I want things the way I want them. I really think that they should come to me when and where and how I want them to. This is a problem for me in life too, as you can imagine, because life doesn't work that way. But I will tell you that after 10 years of running, I have made just about every adaptation that I think I'm going to be able to make. Might be my longest race ever. I'm not 100% certain, and back to walking, there we go. Not 100% certain that I'll even do another one. This has been very challenging to get to this distance, even though I've run somewhat close to the distance. Like I said, I've done a couple of 50-milers. That extra 12 miles to get to 62 miles is a different kind of challenge. It's definitely been more difficult. I'm not getting younger. It's been a couple of years even since I ran my last very long distance race. So I'm finding myself being kind of impatient with those adaptations. And here's what I have learned is that the first time you do a race of any distance, it's not going to feel easy. It's just not going to feel good. But if you keep and if you train smart and make those adaptations, it does get easier. The first time I ran a 5K, I thought it was going to kill me. Like, I never got back to that story about how I was delirious. Here we go, running again. So I signed up for this 5K. Me, 25,000 of my closest friends, and actually my husband ran with me also. I was so nervous before the start of this race that as soon as I crossed the finish line, my breakfast, my little paltry breakfast of almost nothing that I had been able to choke down, was right there at the back of my throat. I thought for sure I was going to throw up. Not while I was running, funnily enough, but after I had crossed the finish line, when adrenaline had kind of let down, and I knew I had done it, and I was super excited, but then I just crashed. I was delirious. I went to go to the bathroom, and I remember I was kind of walking around, and I felt really shaky and clammy and like I was going to throw up, and I thought, I need some water, and I need to get a banana or something to eat, like right away. So I thankfully found the food that they usually have at the end of races and back to walking. But I was not right in my head for probably about an hour afterwards. It was that big of a deal. And nowadays I look at it like, okay, that was a pretty short distance, 3 miles. We're going 3 miles today. This is something that's totally doable. But at the time, it was not beyond me. I won't say that. But it was right at the edge of my limitations. It was all I had in me, especially with all that excitement and all those nerves. You know, if you do continue running and you do sign up for races and decide to go that route with your running, first of all, I highly encourage you to do it. I love running races. It's very, very different from either running indoors or running outdoors. The excitement of the crowd, even if you don't feel super invested in it, like, oh, I'm just going to finish, it's no big deal, you will be surprised at how nervous you are. We are back to running. You will be surprised at how jittery you get and how different it feels to be racing versus running. And it's something that I highly encourage people to do. You know that famous quote, you should do something every day that scares you. Well, I certainly don't live that way. I do not scare myself every single day. I don't think my poor heart could take it. But I do like to scare myself at least once in a while. I like to push those limits. Thankfully, over the last 10 years, that feeling of complete delirium has nervous before races, but I don't get quite that crazy nervous anymore. It's definitely still exciting. It still brings on nerves. I still have to fuel differently and think differently and work really hard on calming myself down. Back to walking, you guys. We are probably rounding the corner on just about 2 miles. We're getting close to 2 miles. This is the top part. This is that point in every run when you are about 2/3 of the way done, when your body says, hey, what's going on here? Are we still doing this? Or are we just about done? And sometimes your brain says the same thing. Okay, this is tough. This is tougher than I thought it was going to be. When can I be done? Well, we could be done in a little bit. This is the point in your run, in your race, where you just kind of take a couple more deep breaths. If you need to, at any point, take one more walking interval. It's going to keep beeping every minute, no matter what. It doesn't know whether or not you are walking or running. So if you need to take 2 walking and then running, or 2 running and then walking to push yourself through, whatever you need to do, we're just putting one foot in front of the other. It's how you get any place in life. You keep moving forward. Eventually, the world will roll under to where you were going. The trick is to not stop. Even if you need to catch your breath, even if you need a sip of water. Okay, if you need to go to the bathroom, yes, you do have to stop. But if you just need to bring your heart rate down a little bit, and you just need to kind of get your mind right, just walk. Walk slowly, but keep moving forward. You will eventually find, after this little 2/3 thing, I find this every time I run, every time I race. If you keep moving forward, you get past that tough point. It is a lot like climbing a hill. Yes, some hills definitely seem like they go on forever, but not one of them actually does. Back to walking. Not one hill in the world goes on forever. Eventually, you get to the top, and then you get to come down the other side. So just keep calm, keep breathing, keep moving, and you will find that you move past that point where it felt impossible, that point where you felt like maybe you couldn't breathe, like maybe you couldn't go on. I promise you, you actually can. There is almost no point, unless you are in medical danger. If you feel dizzy, or like you're really sick, or you are really delirious, take more walking breaks. And if it does feel like a medical emergency, then obviously that's when you stop. I have had points in races where it was very touch and go as to whether or not it was a medical emergency. I've run on very hot days. I've let myself accidentally get very dehydrated. There are times when it is dangerous to go on, and it is important to pay attention to your body for those kinds of signals. But if you're just having some mental difficulty pressing on because this is hard, it's hard. But you know what's awesome? You can do hard things. You've done hard things in your life before. You've gone through troubled times. You've had situations where you thought to yourself, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this. And then you did. You know, running is such a metaphor for life that way. It's one of the many, many, many things that I love about running is that when you learn that you can push yourself with running, you learn that you can handle a lot of things. You know, life gives you lessons in running, and running gives you lessons in life. Like I was saying about doing tough things, you are tougher. You can handle this. And by handling this, and here we go with walking again, by handling this, it helps me personally. I'm not gonna say I'm great at running, but being good at running, feeling good about running, feeling successful with running has given me the courage to do my other life outside of running that I don't know that I ever would have had the courage to do. You know, when I first started losing weight, I really didn't know how. I really, truly did not know what I was going to do. And I had been up and down with my weight. I gained and lost the same 30 pounds. Oh goodness. 5 times, 6 times at least in my lifetime, and including having kids too. I mean, obviously you gain weight when you're pregnant. Actually, I gained 50 pounds when I was pregnant with both of my kids, and then had that extra 10 to 15 to 20 afterwards each time that I had to lose, and then I gained, and then I lost, and then I gained. So that final time when I said, okay, I've got to do something about this. Maybe this will be different this time. The thing that was different for me was adding running to the mix. I enjoyed it so much, and it made me feel like I was capable of something, that it gave me the confidence to be capable of losing weight. It was really weird, honestly. I look back sometimes and I think, I don't know how that all happened. You know, I never saw myself as a runner. Oh my goodness, no. I was the least athletic teenager. I'm terribly uncoordinated. I still am. I don't have any balance. I didn't have any stamina. I couldn't breathe well enough. I literally never ran an entire mile all through school. You know, in PE, they make you run a mile. Oh, not me. I walked. I totally walked. And so I don't know what made me think as an adult that I would suddenly just up and start running, but I did. And as soon as I did, we're back to walking. As soon as I did, I realized that I was doing other things too. It was amazing how many doors that opened for me. And you know what, maybe you're not going to feel that way about running. Maybe running is always going to be drudgery for you, and that's totally okay. But I guarantee that there is something in your life, something that maybe you haven't even discovered yet, but there is something that's going to make you feel like that. There is something that's going to give you so much confidence that you will be like, oh my goodness, I can do anything, because I can do a push-up, or kettlebell swings, or running, or yoga, or Zumba. You know, pick whatever. When you find the thing that you love to do, that you feel good about doing, it will give you the confidence to do well in all kinds of other areas of your life. You guys, we are back to running right now. We have gotten over that hill. I know. We got past that point where it was like, oh my goodness, we've been running a long time and we still have a long time to go, and when is this going to be done? Well, I'll tell you what, it's going to be done in just a couple more intervals. We've got a handful of interval sets of running and walking before we are going to cross that finish line today. Now, I know I promised you that we were running a whole 5K, and I will tell you that maybe we did and maybe we didn't. It totally depends on your pace during the running portions and during the walking portions. What I'm aiming for today is something around like an 11 or 12 minute mile. Average between the running and the walking, it means that we've been running pretty quickly, honestly. And it means that you've been walking at a pretty brisk pace also. So I don't want you to be disappointed if you get done and your pedometer says that you went like 2.5 miles. Here we are back to walking. I will tell you that no matter how far distance-wise you got today, you are going to cross a finish line. You are going to have accomplished something amazing. Wouldn't that be cool? I will tell you that most 5Ks, well, actually nowadays a lot of 5Ks do have medals. Back when I first started running, most 5Ks did not, unless you actually won, or at least won in your age group. And different races have different, they call them age groups because they group people by whatever age you are. It kind of pits you against other people who are your age, and then they generally give out awards for, you know, somebody who's between 40 and 45, somebody who's between 45 and 50, that kind of thing. So that a lot of people do get awards. It's really nice. I have been the proud recipient of a couple of age group awards, and it's very exciting because I will never, ever in my life win a race. That is definitely But it's really, really nice to think that against other people or women my age, that I'm doing okay. And actually, I'll tell you a funny story around my house. I refer to myself quite frequently, not just as the queen bee, but as the queen of fourth place, because of course, fourth place does not get a medal, first through third does. I come in fourth place in my age group, so actually funny. You know, it could be frustrating or it could be funny. I have chosen at this point in my lifetime to just think it's funny. I very frequently look at results after a race, and there I am in fourth place, of course. So when I do get an age group award, when I am first, second, or third from my age group, well, first of all, that usually means that it's a very small race, and that all the fast girls were doing something else. But second of all, it is very exciting for me. It's really nice. Whew, and here we go walking again. It's really nice to earn a little bit of just something for your accomplishment. Because you know what? No matter how fast or slow you run or walk, covering this distance is a huge accomplishment. I, for one, am very, very proud of you. We are coming around the corner. We can probably maybe hear the finish line. Sometimes they're very loud. Lots of times they've got like a big PA system and they'll have music and cheering, and depending on how the course is set up and depends on what your weather is like that day, sometimes you can see or hear a finish line a long time before you get there. I ran a half marathon, the flattest course I've ever run. I mean, it was like my living room flat, but it was that flat for like 13.1 miles. It was a half marathon. And so there was a mile marker at mile 12, and the 13.1, the finish line, was on that same straight street a mile and 0.1 away. I could literally see the finish line for a mile. I will tell you, that was actually really hard. It's kind of nice to like come around a final corner and be like, wow, there it is. It's so exciting, I'm done. Because when you're staring at something for a mile and you're already 12 miles into your day, it starts to feel like it's getting further away. Like I remember staring at it, and it happened to be kind of a windy day that day too. I remember staring at it and I was like, I'm never going to get there. I'm literally never going to get there. And I did, thank goodness. But oh, that was a long mile. I'd had a good day actually that day. I had run fairly well, but I had also gone out a little bit fast, especially in the middle miles when I was feeling good. And I was well past the 2/3 point at that time. So I had come over the hill, but I had still really, I remember that last mile I was really struggling to keep running. It was everything I had to just keep going, especially with that finish line that felt like it was just getting further away. You guys, we have 3 more run and walk intervals. I'm going to start using my counter fingers, and we are going to count this down. Around that corner, coming around that final stretch where we are really feeling like this was something worth doing today. It gets pretty exciting at the finish. I tell you what, most people are either walking at this point, just completely walking because they went out too hard, or starting to feel like, okay, we're getting there. And that's how I want us to feel. Let's finish strong, okay? Let's gather up those reserves. If there's only 3 more running intervals left, and I will tell you that means that there's actually only 2 walking intervals, because we're going to finish on a running interval. We are going to run across that finish line today. So if there's only 3 running intervals left, let's figure out what we've got left. You know, it's always a matter of managing your energy. So take a couple of seconds, take a nice deep breath, as much as you can while we're running, and figure out what you've got. I feel like you've got a little something left. I hope you feel the same way. Sometimes it takes a little bit of concentration, a little bit of digging, a little bit of sheer force of will to keep you going. But I know you have that. You know, you've made it this far. That is something I tell myself very frequently near the end of a race, especially that half marathon that I was just talking about. I had made it that far, okay? 2 running intervals left. We're just walking, we're catching our breath, we're gathering steam, bringing that heart rate back down so we can hit it a little bit harder next time. But I remember vividly that day telling myself, you made it this far, you ran this far. Don't crap out now. It was literally what I told myself. Don't crap out now. You've got a little bit left. And yes, it was a long mile. And yes, it probably took me, well, what would that be? A mile? That was at least 9 minutes. It took me some time. I was running faster then. And so I just kept reminding myself, you've made it this far. And you have. You've made it this far. We've got 2 running intervals left. Maybe there's somebody just a little ways up there that you've got your eyes on. Maybe she looks like she's just about your age, and you'd like to pass one more person. And here we go. Second to the last running interval. Walk is the last time we're walking. That is actually how I pass the time sometimes during races, especially longer races. I like to pick somebody who's not too far ahead. It can be very demotivating. But somebody who's just a little way ahead of me, who's maybe running about the same speed as me, and I like to see if I can pick it up just enough to catch them and then pass them. There is something very satisfying about passing people when you're running. Even if you are in second to last place, it is nice to pass the person who is now in last. And I can actually tell you that from experience, I have come in absolutely last place before. I did a very long duathlon. That's where you run and then you ride a bike and then you run. And here is our very last walking interval, you guys. And I came in absolutely last place that day. And it was, honestly, I still think about that day. It was one of the best days I ever had. I did 1,000 times better than I ever thought I was going to. I had not trained very well. I had been injured. I had been ill. There was a lot going on right before that race, and it was just a huge accomplishment to even get to the starting line, let alone the finish line. So I did not care one tiny hoot that I was the last person across that finish line because, baby, I crossed that finish line. And I will tell you, even if you are the very last person across, in fact, especially if you are the very last person across, some races have special awards for the last person, and almost every race has a lot more cheering for the person who comes in last, because it takes a lot of courage to be out there. This is our last running interval, you guys. Let's give it what we've got. Now, you can definitely see and hear the finish line. There are probably people ringing cowbells. There are people clapping. Maybe you've got somebody from your family or friends there cheering for you because this is a big deal. You got me cheering for you. Woo! Let's give it everything we got because the next time it beeps is the very last time it's going to beep. And we will be better than done. We will be finished. That's why I like races. They don't have a line that says done. You don't cross the done line. You cross the finish line. There you go. Oh, I can see that. We're really picking up the speed now. We are sprinting because, man, this is it. You are doing a great job. And I am so proud of you. Oh, my gosh. Whew, take a nice deep breath, hands over your head. Oh, man. Look what you did today.
Guys, good job! Sarap, diba? Pawisan din naman. Siyempre, marami tayo nami-miss out if we're doing this indoor. Siyempre, yung view, yung makalanghap ka ng fresh air. Iba pa rin siyempre kapag outdoor talaga. Kaya lang, siyempre, hindi ka ma-pressure, huwag mo isipin yung hindi mo pwedeng gawin o yung outside your boundaries for now. Okay lang yan. Ako nga din, no, indoor lang. So, it's possible naman. You're still burning calories. You just miss out the people, the view, fresh air and all. Mahirap to para sa akin because I'm an extrovert, pero sabi nga, do your thing. Make it happen and make it work. So don't forget to make your Herbalife Formula 1 shakes. After every great sweat, love yourself. Bye!